So thank you for attending this webinar that is jointly organized between Akur8, Reacfin, and MS Amlin. Today we are going to speak about opportunities for commercial lines pricing sophistication, and this webinar will include at the end the testimony of Sudaman, who is the head of pricing of MS Amlin. So maybe to start, just a few notes about who we are. So I will start the round of introduction. I'm Henry. I'm an actual data scientist at Akur8. I'm working on the European market and the Asian market. I don't know, Xavier, Sudaman, if you want to introduce yourself quickly before the start of the webinar.
Sure, you can start, Sudaman.
Yeah, thank you so much. I assume I'm audible to everyone. I'm Sudaman. I head technical pricing for MS ISA, Belgium, Netherlands, France, and the UK. I am very happy to be here and to speak about the transformation that we are undergoing as far as technical pricing is concerned, and very happy with the partnership that we have with Reacfin and Akur8, which has been one of the important and critical key success criteria for this program, I would say. So I'm very happy to be here to do this piece of testimonial which is important, and also share a little bit of insight on what we are doing at MS Amlin. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Sudaman. I'm Xavier, so I'm the CEO of Reacfin, which is a Belgian-based consulting company, and I'm an actuary mainly with experience and background in non-life insurance, pricing, and reserving also.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just a few words about Reacfin, Xavier, if you want to present a bit.
Indeed, thanks, Henry. So, as I've mentioned, we are a Belgian-based consulting company. We are active in actuarial science, quantitative finance, and AI for finance. So we are working mainly for insurance company, but also for other financial institutions like banks, asset manager, pension funds, etc. We founded the company a bit more than 20 years ago as a spin-off of the University of Louvain in Belgium, and we are around 40 now in the company, if you go to the next slides. And as I've mentioned, we are mainly working on consulting assignment, but we have also a strong learning service through our Reacfin Academy, and we have also recently developed a bit more in between business and IT to help our clients improve and automate some of their actuarial and financial processes.
Thanks you. On my side, I will just give a few words about Akur8. So we are a non-life insurance pricing and reserving software. We have global offices, so for example in Paris, New York, Tokyo, and we have now more than 250 clients in more than 40 countries. Akur8 has two parts, as I was mentioning, the pricing part and the reserving part. And so the platform that we deliver allows you to cover all the value chain of the pricing process and the reserving process. And so now that we have given a quick tour about our company, I will let the floor to Xavier to start with this webinar and to discuss about pricing sophistication. So Xavier, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. So I just share my slides. So the first part here that I will introduce is to let's say set up the context of commercial lines pricing, in particular for those who are not very familiar to these aspects. But clearly, when we compare retail or personal lines with corporate or commercial lines, there are some critical, let's say, difference that will impact the pricing practices. The first one is that for retail insurance, you have it is mostly data driven, so you usually have a large quantity of data with good quality, and also the risks are more homogeneous. Whereas in commercial lines, but clearly, historically, the pricing is more, it's rather based on expert judgment, even if it's, of course, evolving. The data is scarce. You have less policies insured, so you cannot always count on the law of large numbers, for example. The data might be of bad quality sometimes, and of course the risks are more heterogeneous because you sometimes insure small companies or very, very large companies. And so clearly the pricing in commercial lines presents a greater challenge than for retail business due to this limited data quality and availability, and also to the heterogeneity of the risk. The idea in commercial lines pricing sophistication could be to try to partially bridge the gap with the practice of retail pricing. So taking into account the situation, so with more limited data, with limited quality and the heterogeneity of the risk. Of course, this is a situation we cannot necessarily completely change directly. And for example, we are not able to transform risk heterogeneity into risk homogeneity, but we can work on some element, typically data, improving the data collection, the data quality, the granularity of data. I will give some example in a minute, in order to be able to refine the technical pricing practice, which are currently mostly based on univariate or loss ratio analysis in commercial lines. So with limited complexity, the goal could be to move towards more complex and comprehensive model like generalized linear model, or even more complex like generalized additive model or machine learning, in order to better assess the risk, to improve the risk assessment, and to, let's say, challenge the expert judgments that are usually used in commercial pricing for the moment. And so to move a bit more towards a data-driven approach. Obviously, a full data-driven approach would be really more challenging in commercial lines because of this heterogeneity of the risk and the lack of data volume. But we can companies can implement some iterative improvement, first improving their data, then improving models and repeating so that they have a better risk assessment of their different line of business. So if we go a bit deeper in some of the pain points that we have already introduced and some potential solution. So I think that the main issue is related to data, clearly in commercial lines. So the data volume, there is not always a lot of policy. It's not always easy to link the claims with a specific characteristic of the policies. And of course, in order to improve this lack of data, we can leverage on AI, for example, in order to collect and structure some information that might be, for the moment, let's say, in unstructured, that are in an unstructured form in the company, so included in documents, in reports from engineers or whatever. Also, the adaptation of the underwriting process to collect and store additional information about the risk or the use of external data is clearly a trend that we observe in commercial lines in order to improve the data volume and the data quality. Another problem is the granularity of data. So as I've mentioned, not always the information at risk level is not always available. Sometimes we have only aggregated information at policy level. And so the idea might be to have an iterative approach there. So first, trying to develop models with policy level information, policy level features, and then improve over time by using, let's say, risk level information, for example, in case of property fire, to include property level information over time in the price. Then the heterogeneity, as I've mentioned, is also a big issue in commercial lines pricing. And there, once again, enriching the portfolio with additional information that allow the company to better assess the risk is a way to move forward. Also, the use of experience rating or credibility techniques that will, let's say, use the specific claims history of a policy holder might help also to better assess the risk of heterogeneous risk. So before giving the floor to Henry, just a quick example on one of the elements I have already mentioned. So ideally, from a, let's say, an actuarial perspective, when we are performing a pricing exercise, we would like to ideally have data at the more granular level. So typically being able to link a specific claims to the characteristic that produce the claim. So if I take the example of property fire, so to be able to link a specific claims to the property where the claim happened, to the activity code of this specific property, and to the coverage that, let's say, generated the claims. But this information is not always available at this granularity. Sometimes we have just aggregated data, and also we might lack some information and some specific information about some properties, for example, the activity code or the exact location of the property. And the idea in this case might be to have a first model which will be rather based on a policy level information, and so building aggregated features. So for example, identifying the main activity code or the main location, so that we can start building some data-driven model. And then, of course, when the data becomes more granular in the system, to be able to refine this model with property level information. And so it's not because the conclusion is that it's not because the data quantity or quality is not great at the moment that you cannot start better assessing the risk and building some models. Once again, it might be an iterative process where you improve your data, build some models, then continue to improve your data externally. So my goal was really to identify some pain points and some possible solution. Now I leave the floor to Henry for additional insight.
Thanks a lot. I will share my screen once again. Okay, perfect. And so I will come back on the pricing process. So as Xavier mentioned, there is a commercial. Sorry, no, that's okay. As Xavier mentioned, there is a commercial line and the retail, and we want to bridge the gap. But what we know is that even if there are differences, there is the difference between homogeneity and heterogeneity. Still, in every market and line of business, we are trying to solve the same type of question. So for sure, we have like our unique challenge that we require tailored approach, but we are trying to solve a problem which is to determine the price that will be paid by the client. And so this process involves lots of teams, for example, the marketing team, the pricing team, the underwriting team, deciding if we should or not give discounts. And To decide what should be the price paid by the client, often we will want to answer the question how to improve the business KPIs. And so depending on the market, depending on the line of business, we'll maybe like use different KPIs, but the process at a very high level is just to try to solve this question. And what should be the price paid by the client to improve my business KPI? And so this pricing process, there are some inputs and there are some outputs. So in the inputs, for sure, there is the data. Xavier spoke a lot about all the param we can have the data, but there is also, like, for example, the current prices, the expenses, the expected loss cost, competitors' prices. So all of this are inputs of the pricing process. This does not mean that you have to use all the information, but this is potential information that you can use to derive the price paid by the client. You also have like constraints when you want to decide the price paid by the client. So you can have constraints that are like, let's say, hard constraints, like regulation that prevent you from using some information. But there is also like business constraints, strategic constraints. So for example, you want to sell at least a certain volume in terms of premium. You might also be interested to keep exactly the same factor. And so each time you have additional constraints that come inside the pricing process, involving this different person, and you will try to find with all this information and all these constraints the price that is paid by the client. And so today I will focus on one part on the left side and one part on the right side to show how you can bring sophistication, leverage some ideas from the retail side to improve the commercial pricing. Because if you improve one box here, you will improve the overall pricing process. So let me start by the expected losses. So the expected losses, we are really on the left side of this diagram, which is what information you can use. So in any market, regardless of the regulation and regardless of the product type, you will look at some KPIs. And if you look at here this table of KPIs, you see that some KPIs depends, for example, on the expected losses. So if I look at the margin, the average margin, if I look at the average premium, if I look at the expected loss ratio, the combined ratio, I will need to have a good estimate of the losses to be able to compute these KPIs. So if I want to have a good assessment of my KPIs and my different scenario, I need to have a good estimate of future losses. And so the first thing we can say at this point is that, okay, maybe just an historical analysis is enough, not an expected analysis. But the problem is what I show on this diagram. So on this diagram, on the x-axis, I have a variable which is the driver age, for example, for fleet. And in blue, I have the average current premium. And in purple, I have my average loss on the left, which is the historical loss. And as you can see, there is a signal plus noise. So there is a trend, but there is a noise on top of the trend, specifically on the part where I have low exposure, because on this part I will have more variance. And so it's hard to understand which part are profitable and which part are not. When I build a model, I will be able to smooth out the noise, to keep only the signal, to be able to identify what will be the part that are profitable and what that are not profitable, and what are the part that will be profitable. So moving from an historical analysis to an expected analysis allows to better understand what's going on your portfolio, because you get rid of the noise of the historical analysis. And so now that we are convinced that expected loss, having a good estimate of the expected future loss is important, how can we achieve sophistication to have a better estimate of the expected losses in a step-by-step manner? So the first step will be to have no model. So I just have an average model, a zero variable model. I build an average of my portfolio. So I think in lots of situations we have go beyond that, but this is a starting point. That is, if I do not do better than an average model, then my sophistication is useless. So I start with an average model, and then what I can do is that I can split by cover. So instead of having an average for my entire portfolio, I will have an average for the different covers or different subcovers that I might have. Then I will start to run with analysis. So for example, this is the historical analysis I was describing, where you have like a one-way manual analysis with some groups. So for example, you can have like a property of such a size, and such a size. And this is your first historical analysis. So often we might be here at this stage and we want to go further. Now, the idea will be to consider multivariate effect fitting a model. So this is what I just described in the previous slide. You want to smooth out the noise. You will consider several variables and you will try to better understand the effects of the model. Then you can adjust the groups to the real data. So often the group we have when we do an analysis, for example, property of, I don't know, like less than 100 square meter, then 100 to 1000 square meter and more than 1000 square meters. The groups that we have defined make commercial sense, but not necessarily technical sense. And so we might want to adjust these groups to the data. And finally, we can also then add interaction, geography, external data. So here, what I want to illustrate really is what Xavier was mentioning in the first part, is that it's not like wait for having the perfect data to build the perfect model. It's an improvement process. So Xavier was mentioning improve data, improve model, repeat. This is exactly the idea. So you start with low data, you build a simple model, then you start to collect additional data, you build a better model, etc., etc. And this is the way you are going to build sophistication. So for example, I will illustrate 2 points of the previous diagram. So here you can divide your product in different coverage and just build an average per coverage. And then in the future, depending on the coverage, you will be able to build directly a model for the coverage. So for example, you could say, okay, here I'm going to use an average, here I'm going to use a model. So it will allow you to have a better understanding of the different coverages. The second option is like using the data to define the groups. Because for example, imagine here, you have a group of new vehicles. And if I look at the aggregated view, I got the impression that the prediction of my model and the observed are aligned. And so that finally I have a good estimate of my losses. But if I zoom in and I allow to have a granular view of my data, what I see is that I am completely underestimating the risk for a completely new vehicle, and I am overestimating the risk for a vehicle which are 2 years old. So having more granularity and being able to rely on data to define what should be the good aggregation, what should be the good group, at least at technical level, is something that can allow you to identify profitable and unprofitable segments. And so finally, in all these steps, people often understand machine learning as the last step of this process, when what we think is that machine learning is a way to accelerate the process. So Xavier, in the first part, mentioned some machine learning techniques, for example, to extract value from the PDF contracts or this kind of stuff. But at all the value chain, you can use the machine learning to really like accelerate the sophistication process, moving from one point to the next faster. And so like having this feedback loop of building model, collecting data, building model, and repeating like faster. And so now I will very quickly deep dive a bit on how to leverage this new technical model, this new estimate of future losses to choose the best strategy. And so in the same way, I'm going to show a diagram with a step-by-step approach, but this time we are more going to look at the decision process, which implies in particular the constraint, the business constraint that we have. So the idea is that we now have a good estimate of the future losses. So we have a good estimate of the different KPI, but we have 2 scenarios. The option 1, which sells a bigger volume, and the options 2, which has a lower expected loss ratio. And how can we decide? How can we adapt our processes of scenario comparison to decide what will be the best scenario to deploy in production? So the same way than for expected future losses, we can improve our decision process in a step-by-step manner. So we do not have to wait to have all the perfect data, all the perfect model to start to improve our decision process. We can do it in a step-by-step manner. So let's say the most easy approach that has the good advantage of being operational, and we all know that being operational is super important. It's just to keep the same strategy. So you do not update your price. So for sure it works for time, but it will not work forever. But at least this is the first operational strategy that we can think of. How can we do better? So the first approach will be to change the strategy without analysis. So I just rely on expert knowledge. So when I have good experts, it's a good way to proceed. It's an operational way to proceed. But then I'm missing part of the data that I have, and I can do better. And so I can move from this expert analysis to start to have data-driven analysis using historical loss ratio, historical analysis, as I was mentioning. Then you can create a static projected analysis. So you move from historical loss ratio to expected loss ratio. And this gap of moving from historical loss ratio to expected loss ratio is already a big one because you have leveraged your technical model. So typically, building technical model, even very simple technical model, allow you to move from this point to this point. And then you can go even further, leveraging some demand assumption or leveraging competitor prices to try to run dynamic analysis. So instead of having a static analysis where your portfolio will remain the same, you try to integrate demand assumption to understand the variation of volume when the price will vary. So for example, to illustrate, if I come back to the expected analysis, you can compare your current premium with the expected losses. And so even if you are not going to deploy your technical model in production directly, it can help you to identify what are the unprofitable segments. So here, for example, I might decide to keep exactly the same premium, but at least I will know that this will be my unprofitable segment, and I might use different techniques to try to improve my loss ratio, for example, on this segment. So really what I want to emphasize here is that my technical model that is unconstrained, that does not take into account the regulation, and that will give me a price that reflects really the pure premium, the technical premium, can act as a compass. And so I will use my current tariff, compare it to my unconstrained results, and then I will decide how to move my current tariff using adjustments. So I do not need to deploy the best model, because sometimes I hear that since I cannot deploy a new model in production, it's useless to do modeling. I think that leveraging this technical model can be useful as a compass, just to iterate on our current tariff. So for example, here I identify what are the unprofitable segments, and I can just adjust my current premium on this specific segment. So here I list a list of potential actions for further reference. So I will not go through every of this action, but I will, for example, speak about localized marketing campaign. So as I mentioned, you can take your current tariff, do some adjustment to get your final price. And so here, what you can identify what are the profitable part on the map. So here I see, like, I identify profitable region, and I can decide, for example, to run localized marketing campaign, saying like, on this part of my portfolio, on this part of the country, I have profitable customers, so I will try to run marketing campaign to get more customer in this area. So even if I do not directly deploy a technical model in production, I can still leverage this technical model to adapt my current tariff or take business decision, like running marketing campaign on the good part, on the relevant part of the country. And so once again, machine learning and automatic analysis can help you accelerate this process. And so finally, before leaving the floor to Sudaman, who will share his experience, I just wanted to say that the goal is really to design a process, a feedback loop, that there are different paths to sophistication. with different balance between pure data-driven approach and expert knowledge. So both are important. You cannot rely only on data-driven and only on expert knowledge. So you can try to really find a good balance between the two approach. And the main idea is to keep moving and define a process that is stable, where you do not change your price all semester, for example, that is fair, that is controlled, simple and transparent, so that when you increase your price, for example, it's with respect to a trend, and so you have you do not have reverse trend. You have something that is fair for the different consumer and control, where the risks are well understood with place for mitigation. So that's it on my side, and Sudaman, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Virat. I'm going to share my screen. So let me go on a full screen. I know we are basically speaking about sophistication, and it's my testimonial towards what we are doing at MS ISA. To start with, I would definitely want to insist upon one particular part, that it is the people behind this transformation that I want to thank. It's my team and the strategic partners, Reacfin, Akur8, and all of our strategic partners who have been helping us. So a big thank you to every one of you for understanding us, understanding our shortcomings, our challenges in various areas such as data quality, etc. But still trying to work hard and find a solution to introduce the sophistication, that which is very, very important to ensure that anything that we do is customer centric. So from that perspective, anything and everything, I always insist that the people behind it are very important. Who can run the processes, as both Henry, Hirat, and also Xavier were speaking about, so we can bring the sophistication that is very much required. And I also want to inform. I just also want to touch upon what Xavier was speaking about while he spoke about commercial insurance. It's a very complex area as far as technical pricing is concerned, and there is a considerable work that which needs to be done before the technical price becomes a commercial price or an actual price. And this particular work also requires a considerable sophistication, where human expertise, underwriters' expertise, is sort of brought in with the scientific evidence, so that we are able to explain as much as possible the human-driven expertise that which is basically coming inside our pure technical premium. So that's something that which I know everyone understands, because if you are in this webinar, then I'm sure you are aware of how complex that particular part is as well. Having said that, indeed, as a part of my testimonial, I would like to inspire upon the sophistication that can be brought in and will be brought in, and I'm sure future is going to be even more interesting with all the advancements that which is happening. So this is a path that we have taken from 2023 Q3 Q4. That's when we started, all the way until 2024 Q4 as we end, and also we will continue until the end of 2026. I think transformation is something that which is an ongoing journey. There is no end to it. So there is considerable workload that which is required in ensuring to keep the business as usual, because technical pricing is a business as usual activity, while transformation has to go hand in hand. So the key thing here is also that my team has been absolutely brilliant in managing both business as usual and transformation, as they see themselves transforming as well. And that's the key point here. everyone in my team is also transforming in their skills, because it's not about just and the skills that we are upskilling ourselves is not about something that which we will use in the future. It's a skill that which we use today, and we use that skill to basically bring in the sophistication that which both Xavier and Henry was speaking about, right? So I'll go in depth. There are considerable. So in 2023, we started with solving a very critical problem, which is data gathering, data collection, and especially coming from a situation where commercial insurance and the data estate for technical pricing was a kind of a pre-bind, post-bind, but mostly post-bind situation. Data, of course, that which was available was not sufficient enough. And definitely for all the sophistication that needs to be brought in, we need to improve the data quality to the level that we are able to justify scientifically the insights that which we bring in for our models, so to say. And hence we started with that particular part. And in 2024, we started to build concretely certain LOBs, property, so to say. We picked up property and we picked up fire and engineering specifically to work on it. And as we did that, we started to build the whole foundation of our pricing ecosystem itself, the modeling environment, the insights environment, and the pricing, the tariff engines and everything, along with the underwriters prices application, etc. Meanwhile, in the green, you will also start to see that we wanted to upskill our team and we started to focus on upskilling of the team as well. So all has to go hand in hand, and hence, of course, it was very critical for us. As you can see, 2024 Q1 beginning, we trained our team in Akur8 and also tested Akur8 at that point of time, and we used in 2024 Akur8 as well for property fire and property engineering. Now, there are other assets as well which we built, and I'm going to speak to you a little bit in the next slide about that. On the left hand, and I request none of, please do not take a print screen or something. You will receive the recording and you will have the knowledge. Thank you for your understanding. On the left-hand side is all the data sources. The data flows into the right-hand side. Sometimes it is bidirectional, but mostly the data comes from golden source of truth, where our data team in ISA is very helpful for us. And the IT team is also working very closely to make this all happen. So this magic is basically not something that which happens only at the pricing, but we have to work with multiple stakeholders within the company. The IRA is our asset that which it's an AI asset. She speaks several languages now, and she basically is the reason for why our data collection and data gathering goes in a very good way. And we continue to build her. She's our solution at this point in time. She gathers data, she structures data, she centralizes data, but she will be able to do a lot more things as we progress in our transformation journey. Whatever she does is all brought in something called as pricing cube, and this is a data cube that which we build for centralizing, and then we are able to also reconcile with the golden source of truth after our modifications are cleaning. And we basically ensure that it is, and since there are multiple countries and multiple lines of business, we are also able to harmonize across them. From there, we basically move into the pricing operations, and pricing operations being modeling, calibrations, testing, sensitivity, all of these things, everything and anything that which we will do within the pricing team is called as pricing operations. The transparency of what we do is created for the underwriters and other stakeholders through pricing insights hub that you can see there on the top. And we basically use a pricing infrastructure, so to say, to basically do all the modeling and risk assessments, etc. And once these things are done, then we are able to actually show the prices and also capture the actual price and see the justification, etc., and ensure that there is a feedback loop coming from underwriters, claims handlers, risk engineers, etc., using underwriting pricing application. So this is pretty much the infrastructure. that we are building, it's all big names, and of course you can imagine the amount of work that which is going under each of the topic. Again, this is key to understand that these things can succeed or fail. The key success criteria is indeed the people, and the people who are disciplined enough to follow the process that which is identified, so to say. Uh, of course, Ira, I spoke to you about. It's an AI. At this point in time, she centralizes data. She gathers, centralizes data, and she will be doing a lot more. It's a kind of advanced analytics, NLP driven solution, and a lot more is going to come in as far as Ira is concerned. The data pipeline itself, I spoke to you about the pricing cube and the pricing hypercube. All the data sources are basically brought into what we call to a data lake that which our data team is building. And from that, there we basically put a pipeline to bring into our cube. And that's where, let's call it our staging and our landing environment. And in the cube, it's already cleaned and ready for insights creation, and that is exactly the data that we also use for our modeling. And why is it critical? Because the data that goes in for all the models that which we build will also have to be shown, and transparency has to be created towards underwriters so that the outcome of the model is trusted and credible enough for the underwriters to follow through. So creating a window to the pricing cube, and that's our pricing insights hub, is key for us, and we did that. And that has a big advantage in improving the adoption rate of our models by the underwriters. And from there, pricing hypercube is at this point in time a kind of a feature, a kind of a backlog item. But in 2025, we will create pricing hypercube, where we'll be able to do a considerable number of advanced operations such as performance monitoring, pricing optimization, scenario testing, advanced analytics, etc. We already do a little bit of risk loss analysis and other thing in pricing cube itself, but of course, all will get more advanced in pricing hypercube. Our analytics platform itself, as you can see, is we have a data science and actuarial environment. Our team, I'm very glad to say that we are building a team which where data scientists are not alone, and where actuaries are not alone. The actuaries are the data scientists. The data scientists also gain actuarial knowledge, and we ensure that we bring inside the team who basically have an actuarial background as well. So it's a kind of a mixed team. It's a little bit difficult to find the skills, but then nevertheless, we invest in considerable money in upskilling the team so that we are able to deliver what we deliver. We heavily use Python, Akur8, and also Databricks, so to say, in whole of the process. This is all I have, but I'm very happy to answer questions because I would assume that would be the most important part. So I stop sharing and I'm willing to answer any questions. Back to you, Hirad and Sabi.
Thanks a lot, Sudaman. So we have time left as planned, 15 minutes for question and answer. So feel free to use the chat or the Q&A part to ask your question, and we'll be pleased to answer.
Maybe in the meantime, I have a question for Sudaman before we receive question from the audience. I think that historically, Sudaman, in commercial lines, the business and the pricing was usually, let's say, in the end of underwriters. So can you maybe share your experience in how you can handle, let's say, or manage the collaboration between the pricing team and the underwriting team, which is obviously key in commercial lines pricing?
Yeah, there are two key things that two or three key things that which is very important in establishing this relationship. And the first and foremost is to involve the underwriters from the beginning. Yeah, so once we first of all, we explain the underwriters the process that we take to arrive at a technical premium, and not just the technical premium. We also create the transparency to show them how we collect the data, where do we collect the data from, how do we clean the data, and how can we also, for example, with using pricing insights hub, they're able to see the cleaned data, and they're able to see also what sort of a data was basically used in creating the model. Once the state of prior technical premium is arrived, I think you were heavily involved in it as well, Xavier, that where we started to do a considerable number of calibration sessions. And this calibration sessions, to be very honest, in 2024, you will remember we thought we can do it in 6 sittings. So basically 6 calibration meetings, and then we would have a beautiful model that which will give a extraordinary technical premium, that which will be close to the ground truth. But you know that we ended up doing 17 calibration sessions, and the key thing here is to not duck down with the deadlines and reduce the number of calibration sessions. It would have been easy for us to say, no, that's it. This is 6 and we decided 6 and we will do only 6. No, but we did not give up, and we continuously went with underwriters, because underwriters are there not to kill our models. They are there to use it, and deadlines do not mean anything at that point of time. So I think as much as possible, we need to, of course, make it more efficient and make it more effective. And we have found the lessons learned from the past is how we can reduce from 17 sessions to, let's say, 8 sessions or 10 sessions. I don't know how it's going to happen in 2025, but I think these calibration sessions were key. That opened up the conversation with the underwriters and with the prices. And I think once that happens, then the results is well understood by the underwriter, then they become your promoter. This is at least my experience in 2024. Also, increasing the knowledge of the team about the business portfolio that the underwriters are basically managing is also key. It's not that you are technically accurate in how we are looking at the data, but it is also to understand the business itself. The dynamics of pricing is very much something that has to be taken into account in commercial insurance, especially because there is a considerable, like you exactly say, you don't have a homogeneous data set. You have a very heterogeneous data set, and building homogeneity is also something that which is key. But having a human expertise driven homogeneity building is key. Fleet is very easy. You can clearly identify the brands and models and create the necessary homogeneity inside a heterogeneous set. But it is not the same for property fire. It's not the same for property. It all changes. And again, the choice of the models to do the kind of technical price is also something that has to be completely driven by understanding the business portfolio. Who can really explain us what is the business portfolio and how is the business and the dynamics of the market? It's again the underwriters. So in the end, we need them hand in hand, and they are there all through the process.
Okay, great. I think it answered the question from Rudy in the chat. There is also some other question in the chat, mainly for you, Sudaman. You are the star today. So, how many MS Amlin insurance platform are integrated within Akur8, and how long did the integration take per line of business? So it's a question from Amanda. For you, so Sudaman.
Sudaman, you're on mute now.
Sorry. Yeah. So should I start with Amanda? So how many MS Amlin insurance platforms are integrated with Akur8, and how long did the integration take per line of business? Thanks. It's a very concrete question. Integration itself with Akur8, at least we had a lift and shift approach. So simply because we are in the beginning of the transformation journey, you can build data pipelines directly with Akur8, and you can do such things. But what we do is lift and shift. So integration itself is very loosely coupled for us with Akur8. So I'm not in a position to give a very concrete answer, at least in this setup. Henry, you can add us how you do it with other clients for answering the question of Amanda.
Yeah, what I would say is that like the integration, since we are not speaking about live deployment, but technical modeling, there is no, properly speaking, integration directly with data tools like Databricks or all that stuff. All this integration will ease the process of data ingestion, but you can start using Akur8 as long as you have an initial data set that you can upload directly on the platform and start working with it to get some insight. So really the integration, we think often of integration when we think about like on-premise tools, because you need to have the good setup, the good IT setup, all that stuff. Regarding the cloud, you just need to have a web browser to connect, so integration is fast. And then I would say, like as Sudaman mentioned, what's important is more the journey. How you work iteratively to sophisticate the process more than just the integration. Because if you are integrated to data tools, but you do not have the process of upskilling the team, about building initial models, this is useless. Really, what you have to do is to build an ongoing process about like upskilling people, about like getting better and better data. But the integration with Akur8 can be done in just one day, as long as you have access to the platform. Then all the integration with Databricks or this kind of elements will just ease the data ingestion, but are not mandatory.
Yeah. Thank you. And the next question is, could you elaborate on how you monitor models' health? This is, I would give a very straightforward answer, and that is accuracy and error rates and calibration, risk scores and trend analysis. These is something that which basically we use for performance itself, I would say. But data quality and integrity is something that which we check. That's where we basically look at the data that which comes in before we put it on our pricing cube. And then there is also the place where we check for drift analysis. So to say, it's not yet fully in place. In 2025, this will be our focus as well, to capture data drift and any kind of concept drift that which we are not aware of, so we can go back to underwriters and check for. So the drift analysis we will do there. Mostly business KPI is our key measure. So we need to, we are building our key business metrics, so to say, and that is again pricing insights hub. If you remember, that's an asset that which we have. Through the pricing insights hub, we will be able to create transparency to the underwriters, but also we are able to see all sorts of business KPIs, loss ratio analysis, etc., that which we will do, product performance, price performance, price product performance metrics, etc. I think that is for also another way of monitoring. As far as stability is concerned, we want to do scenario analysis, and again we have not yet done it, but in 2025, 2026 this will be in the backlog. While error pattern analysis, basically to see how the distribution of error is, if the model is underestimating risk, especially for a specific segment of customers, etc. These things kind of also something that we need to do. And then there is also another monitoring, which is human in the loop monitoring, which again, it's about the calibration sessions and the discussions during the calibration sessions, and what do we learn consistently out of it. This needs to be captured, and also any kind of failure to bind after the quote has to be captured as well. So to say, we understand where we are failing. That is also another way to monitor the health of the model. Apart from that, there are considerable number of open source tools that which are available to do the drift analysis and ensure that we are in line. So pretty much these are the top highlight. I hope I answer your question, Dominicus. Yeah. If there is anything more specific, you can always reach out and we will find a way to answer that. Are you willing to share some of the lessons learned from the calibration sessions that you said would enable fewer sessions in the future? Yes, for sure. Some of the lessons that which I can already tell you is that we want to understand the consistency factor in the decision making of the underwriters. This, if we understand, we will be able to build that as a factor into our models so that the deviation between the technical price and the actual price can go down. This also is something that which we are able to show to the underwriters during the calibration session, and then they are able to understand that. Of course, there has to be a scientific explanation. You don't want to pollute your technical premium with subjective. You have to be as quantitative as possible. So there is a balance to it. Risk appetite clarity also is something that which has to be enhanced. There is a risk tolerance level that I think the underwriters work with. As humans, we are meant for it. And trying our level best during the calibration sessions to soften ourselves to understanding this risk tolerance will help us a lot. And know that underwriters also are working towards a strategy. They have a strategy that they have to work with, their underwriting strategy. And that is also something we need to be mature and understand even before the calibration session starts. And that these things helps us a lot in reducing the time, because otherwise a lot of time is lost in they explaining what are they trying to achieve in a bigger picture perspective. I think also, sorry, last one, understanding their
maybe
tools. Yeah.
Can I add something on the calibration
Sure.
session?
Sure.
Something that we learn also during the calibration session is also to somehow interpret some of the results that we obtain from pure data-driven model, and to readjust also some the definition of some features that we use in our model. And also some expert judgment are sometimes needed also in segments where we don't have so much data to build or to fit robust models. So this is important. Maybe before going to the question of Rudy, there is another question interesting, I think, in the Q&A part from Tom. Yes. Do you use a lot of external data, and where does it come from, Sudaman?
We want to use external data, let me put it like that. Yeah. And we were, that's one thing that which is the availability of external data, in my experience, is overestimated. We need it. We for sure need it. And of course, the usual suspects such as, Bellmap and that sort of data is already Moody's for financial assessments and stuff like that is always available. And that's what we use as well. For fraud, I mean, you have FRIS, etc., coming and bringing in the necessary intelligence with the data sets that they build. But having said that, there is also publicly available data, especially in commercial insurance. You are pushed to look at industry benchmark data. Yeah, so you want to understand the nature of the risk through the industry and the profession related events, and trying to interpret those events into loss experiences where you actually do nothing but predict and guess. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a complex thing to do it, but you're left with no choice but to do it. For commercial insurance, external data will grow a lot longer, will in sophistication as well. But I think we are in the surface of it, to be very honest. I don't know if you want to add anything more or to the Xavier or others.
No, we try it, and indeed in practice we didn't find so many features from external data, for example, on properties that are really representing the underlying risk that we want to assess, and it was also confirmed by the calibration sessions with the underwriters. So I'm also sure that in the future external data will be key, but first build with your own data and then move to include external data, I would say.
Yeah. Eric, I do think that data governance frameworks, especially for data quality, data provisioning, etc., I wouldn't say they are neglected. I would say they are not yet up to speed to where it should be, in my opinion. And that's my opinion, but definitely it's not neglected. I don't think, but there is not really a silver bullet as far as these aspects are concerned. Data governance is a joint activity across the company, and everyone should contribute to it, and only then it succeeds and become it. It's that much complex. So it's a really complex topic, in my opinion. More sophisticated modeling, do you ensure or require the client to have some sort of data governance framework in place to sort out data problems effectively? Well, you don't have a control on that, especially from a technical pricing perspective. That's a kind of a out of scope question, in my opinion. But again, Xavier or Henry, if you want to add to that question, please, you're welcome.
Well, I think it's a bit linked to what we presented before. I think in commercial lines, the first and main challenge is rather about data than pure modeling, I would say. And so it's clear for me that you first have to start with your data and improve your model and do it step by step. And he also mentioned that very clearly in his presentation. So it's really an iterative process. Do not wait to have the Rolls Royce in terms of data before modeling. But do not expect also the Rolls Royce model if you have not worked on your data before, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, what I would just wanted to bounce on what Xavier was saying. So indeed, it starts with data. And if you try to build a governance without starting to model at the same time to having this feedback loop, you might focus a lot on some data quality issue that you think are important. While if you start modeling even very simple model, you will see what are really the problems that are important. And so really this feedback loop helps you identify where you should put focus on your data governance.
And Rudy, are you willing to share? What do you consider the biggest challenge? At least my take is for a commercial insurance technical pricer or pricing actuary, building an in-depth understanding of the commercial portfolio is absolutely key, and that should be the first step, even in my opinion. And somehow we need to find a way to work in partnership with the lead underwriters or portfolio managers or whatever you call in your own company. I think that's the second step, which is very key for us. And the third step, in my opinion, is also to build an in-depth understanding of the data within the portfolio. So if you don't do the first step and you don't have a good partnership with the portfolio manager, the third step where you want to try and build an in-depth understanding of the data within the portfolio is absolutely not possible. So that's the third step. And based on all of these things, coming up with an appropriate technical pricing method. So these are the four things, in my opinion, a commercial insurance technical pricer should definitely do. And if they don't do these four steps, I think it's a little bit less pronounced as far as retail insurance goes. But nevertheless, in my opinion, these are the four steps. Xavier, Henry. Yeah.
Oh, fully agree with that. Clearly, the lower level in data quality, in data volume, the heterogeneity of risk are the main differences. And of course, when you are a retail pricing actuary, you don't face necessarily this kind of issues. So that's the main step to move forward to commercial line pricing indeed.
No, nothing to add. I mean, you said it also. I won't repeat what you said. Okay, I think we covered all the questions. So I think it's time to close this webinar and to say thank you all for attending, and do not hesitate to reach out to us if you want to have further discussion. So thank you all for attending. It's time for us to say goodbye and yeah, have a nice day, everyone. And thanks to Sudaman and thanks Xavier for
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a very good day. Bye-bye.
Have a good day and good holiday season. So thanks.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
good day. Bye, everyone.